Rabbi Manis Friedman, thank God it's Tuesday. Thank God it's Sukkot. I see you're sitting in a beautiful sukkah, and it's a very, very happy time for Jewish people, and not just Jewish people, I've noticed. So the question, the topic of today's program is, what is happiness? Is it a feeling, a skill, a gene, or hard work? What is happiness?
Yeah, you can recognize that it's a sukkah, right?
Yes.
With a little bit of sunshine coming through. You see it on the wall behind me. I'm actually in Birmingham, Alabama, down south, at the Chabad of Alabama, in the sukkah. So you might hear somebody mowing their lawn, or you hear airplanes passing by. But it's beautiful here, absolutely beautiful. As I'm sure it's beautiful in any sukkah. Oh, there goes the lawnmower. We planned it. Okay, so what exactly is simcha? What is happiness? The feeling. Actually, happiness means willingness to experience emotions. That's what happiness means. It's not a feeling in itself. Or maybe you can call it a feeling, but you can't call it an emotion. So happiness is not an emotion. It's a disposition where you are willing to experience emotions. Sadness, in contrast, would be an unwillingness to experience emotions. So sadness also is not an emotion. It's a disposition. Sometimes we're willing to feel and experience emotions, sometimes we're not. In fact, when there's an intense emotion about to happen, and we don't want to go there, that's when we shut down and become sad. So sad means not feeling. Technically, precisely, using the language carefully, it wouldn't be right to say, I feel sad. You don't feel sad. Sadness is the absence of feeling. I don't feel happy. I am willing to feel anything. So a happy person will feel pain, regret, tragedy more deeply than a sad person. The sad person doesn't want to feel. He's not going to feel pain. He's not going to feel grief. He's not going to feel joy. The happy person, whatever happens to be happening, that's what he's going to feel. And he's going to feel it deeply because he's open to emotion. So when we're told to be happy on this holiday, it's saying two things. Open your heart to feelings. I guess we assume that most people are open unless something is wrong, right? So the default position is human beings are open to emotions. In addition, because it is a holiday, a significant day, therefore the emotion you should experience is one of happiness, pleasure. So what do you do if you're just not in the mood? You're feeling closed rather than opened. So going through an emotion would be too draining. So you don't want to hear bad news. You don't want to hear good news. You don't want to be emotionally burdened. That's called sad. Sad means just let me sleep. It's not a physical tiredness. It's an emotional tiredness. It's like after a holiday, any holiday, people feel drained because they had to feel. They had guests and people were coming and everybody was enjoying, and you had to feel, you had to emote. And after a couple of days of that, you're just drained. What if you enter the holiday drained? Same thing was true with Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, you're supposed to regret, you're supposed to feel remorse. I don't want to feel. Leave my emotions alone. What do? So here is the beauty of Torah and mitzvot. Every mitzvah that God gives us, He Himself observes. God provides. That's like giving charity. Therefore, God asks us to also give charity. God is patient and forgiving. He asks us to also be patient and forgiving. God created the world in 6 days and He rests on the seventh. He asks us to rest with Him. See, it tells you that resting on Friday or on Sunday is just a religious activity. Shabbat is not just a religious activity. When you rest on Shabbat, you are joining God in His rest. That's a very different experience. So here's the point. When God says on Yom Kippur, feel remorse, feel regret, it'll be effective. It'll make you a better person. And you have to ask, my regret, my remorse, it's so shallow. I get a little twinge of, if I could do it all over again, I would do it a little better. It's about as deep as my regret goes. Like all of my feelings. They're just human. How significant is a human emotion to God? God says that on Sukkot or on Simchat Torah, you have to be happy. Yeah, okay, fine. You know, when I'm happy, it's not very profound, not very deep. Yeah, I'm in a good mood. But one little disappointment and the good mood is gone. So my feelings are so fragile. How can they possibly be significant? Now, if I am doing a mitzvah, God told me to put tefillin on my arm and head, and I put them on my arm and head. Okay, I can understand that that is significant because I'm doing something He wants. So it's not me that is significant, it's the mitzvah. But when I'm asked to be happy, that's just me. My happiness, my emotion can be significant. to God? See, here's the secret. God says that today you should be happy. What does that mean? What's today? It means today I am happy, so be happy with me. On Yom Kippur, God says, today I regret, so regret with me. When I join God and add my little regret to his infinite regret, that's powerful. When God is happy, rejoicing, and I rejoice with him, although my rejoicing is kind of puny, but not when it's joined with his. I think I might have told you this story, right? My son, who is the singer, a popular singer, Hasidic singer, and he was born in Minnesota.
Все будет хорошо. We love that song, yes.
Right. So he gets up on stage and he says, you know, I'm not the only nice Jewish boy who is a singer from Minnesota. There's another, Bob Dylan. He's a nice Jewish boy and he comes from Minnesota and he's a singer. And then he says, and you know, together we have sold millions of albums. You see, if you count only the albums he has sold, not very impressive. But together, oh, we have sold millions of albums. Your own happiness by itself is kind of tiny. But when you add it to the infinite happiness that God is feeling, all of a sudden your happiness becomes very significant. That's why on this day, your happiness is so meaningful. Because on this day, God is rejoicing. So you're not doing it on your own. You're joining him in his infinite happiness. On Yom Kippur, when you're regretting, it's in addition to God's regret. So it becomes awesome. What does God regret? He regrets the fact that he put you in a place and under conditions where you have to have regrets. Doesn't enjoy the fact that we are tempted to sin, that we are capable of sin. He doesn't enjoy the fact that he actually created sin. He regrets it. So when we add our little bit of regret to his awesome regret, then our regret becomes awesome too.
Rabbi Friedman,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Can we backtrack a little bit to the beginning of what you started to say, that people who don't feel are the sad people. People who feel are happy people. But people have sad feelings. So doesn't that kind of contradict that statement?
People have what?
Sad feelings. A lot of people have feelings, but they don't even have the happy feelings. They only have the sad feelings. They see the negative to everything. And of course, right, they have sad feelings, but they have feelings. Right. Are they happy?
No. Sadness is an absence of feeling. So they're not grieving and they're not rejoicing. Nishtahin or nishtaher. It's not. There's no feeling. And that's what is so wrong with sadness. It's emotionally lifeless. It's dull. And everything lifeless is unholy. Life is holy, death is not. So, how do we get ourselves to be happy when the circumstances in our lives are not bringing that happiness?
But don't they create feelings, those negative aspects of our lives?
See, if the negative aspect created a feeling, then we would either feel grief or anger, outrage, but not sad. So a negative feeling is a powerful feeling, not an absence of feeling. That's why if you would at least get angry about the situation, you know, but just to go numb because, more bad news. I don't want to feel anymore. That would be sadness. So, for example, excuse me, when there's a tragedy, are you sad? Hopefully not. Sad means you're not feeling the tragedy. You're not grieving. That's what often happens when a tragedy, God forbid, occurs, and you dread the grieving feeling. You don't want to go there. So you shut down and you just become sad. And then you develop all sorts of emotional problems because the grief is not coming out. Same is true with happiness. When we're emotionally drained and there's a reason for rejoicing, a child has been born, a grandchild was born, and you just don't have the energy to enjoy it. So you shut down. But you can't fool Mother Nature, so you're going to develop repressed feelings. Sadness is not an outlet. It doesn't facilitate emotions. So the question is, how much control do we have? Most people assume that when I'm sad, I'm sad. What can I do about it? And when I'm happy, I'm happy. Don't tell me to get serious. I'm in a happy mood. How much control do we have? The answer is we have total control, because the mind controls the heart. If you give yourself a good reason, the heart will follow. If you stop and think what a tragedy the loss of this person is to his family, to his friends, to you, to the world, you will feel grief. The heart responds to the messages from the brain. So here's something to think about when you want to get into the mood of the holiday. Today, God is especially happy to have you as his child, as part of his people. Why would you ignore that? If he is happy with you, then the right response is, I'm happy with him. He is thrilled to have me be a member of the Jewish people. I'm thrilled to be a member of the Jewish people. Or I'm not Jewish, but God included me in his vast eternal plan. He must need me, so I reciprocate. He finds me significant. Well, then, least I can do is find him significant. Or find my role in the world significant because it's significant to him. The reason we don't feel that is because we don't know. We haven't even stopped to think. What is he feeling? What does he think of me? So when he is happy to have me, then I should be happy to be here. When he's a little upset with me, then I should be upset with myself too. Stay on the same page with him. That's called emes. That's called truth. Truth means stay on the same page as him. If you turn the page and you're no longer in touch with him, then you have strayed from the truth.
Rabbi Friedman.
And it's just your feeling. Yeah.
But then there are people that are more susceptible to being happy, and then there are people who are more susceptible to not being happy. We're not going to call them sad. Is there a certain gene that people are born with, or maybe it's not called a gene, but something that makes some people more susceptible to happiness than others?
Absolutely. And even if it's not called a gene, it is inherited. You can see a family trait. There are families, every member in the family is serious. Maybe too serious. Take everything seriously. Feel responsible for everything. They're constantly burdened. And then there are families who don't seem to notice any responsibility, any obligation, nothing. They're blissfully unaware, but it's a family trait. So it is inherited. But many dispositions, weaknesses, and strengths are inherited. What we can do is modify it. You don't have to change your entire personality, but modify it. Make your inherited disposition a little more flexible, so that on the occasion where you need to be different, you can do it. So the person who is always blissfully uncaring, unburdened, happy, sometimes you have to be able to grieve. Won't change your entire personality. But to not be able to grieve when you're supposed to, that's not so good. So you do have the capacity to make your personality or disposition or inherited traits a little more flexible.
I will have to ask why. Yeah. Why do we need to grieve, be able to grieve? Why can't, if a person is naturally very, very happy, why can't they just stay that way?
You're missing out on a big slice of life. The reality is that certain things demand certain responses. It's like, what about a person who is just a loving kind of person? They just love everything. They love everybody. And they love their spouse. But their spouse doesn't love them. They don't care. They don't care. It's their personality, it's their style to love people, so they love. If people don't love them back, they don't care. Are they missing out on something?
Grief.
Or the opposite. Somebody loves you very much, but you're not the type, so you don't love them back. You're missing out. If you don't, let's go to another emotion. If you're not jealous, never, are you missing out on something? You imagine a modern thinking guy who knows that his wife is having an affair. He doesn't care. He's not the jealous type. He's missing out on something. There is some dimension or layer of connectedness to his wife that he doesn't have. In this case, he should be jealous. He must. Your children love to visit with your brother, their uncle. They don't like visiting with you. Should you be jealous? Of course you should. How can you not? You don't want your children's devotion or time. So every emotion has its place. Every emotion has its virtue. Of course, if you abuse it, it's very destructive. But to never experience it is also unnatural. So a healthy human being has all the responses that life demands. Like a time to be happy, a time to grieve, a time to rejoice, a time to speak, and a time to refrain from speaking. They each have their time, and they each have their virtue.
Rabbi Friedman, what would you say to people who have very hard time expressing happiness or, feeling this true happiness? The other emotions are a little bit easier to come by: anger, annoyance, dislikes, but the happiness and the likes are much harder to come by. What would you say to people like that?
It's so unfair, isn't it?
Yes.
All the negative feelings, all the bad feelings, they come so naturally. The feelings that come so naturally are not the right ones. If I get angry easily, it's not really anger. If I get jealous too easily, it's not really jealous. An emotion must always have a background, a foundation in the mind. My mind must tell me this is the right emotion. Emotions that happen without the mind, those are like impulses, not really an emotion. And people go for training, serious, necessary training, called impulse control. A real emotion you don't have to control. They don't need to be controlled. Real anger, why would you control it? There's reason to be angry, so you're angry. It's very appropriate. But impulses are usually not necessary, and you don't have a handle on it. So you need to train or learn impulse control. Even love. Instant love, instinctive love. You need to get control of it because it'll only harm you. So if there's no mind behind the emotion, then it's just an impulse and it's working against you. It's a handicap of sorts. So all of those instinctive, thoughtless, or brainless emotions are not the real thing. Now, this doesn't mean that emotions should become cerebral, that we should all become intellectuals. No, emotion should be emotion. It should be hot, it should be stormy, it should be somewhat unpredictable, spontaneous, but with a background, with a foundation, so that we know the difference. We know when to be happy and when to grieve.
Rabbi Friedman,
We know when to be angry and when to be patient. Yeah.
do you have some kind of pointers for people who are listening to us right now of how to deal with impulses? Well, first of all, how to tell them apart from real emotions, and second of all, how to handle them.
I remember doing marriage counseling for a couple. They were each accusing the other of having a terrible temper. So he said, I can't live with her. She's got such a temper. And then she says, I can't get along with him. He's angry. He's an angry person. Wait a minute. What's really going on here? So listen to what it turned out. They're both angry people. But their anger is different from each other's. He says, I'm angry. I'm an angry kind of guy. I'm loud, I'm angry, I'm always angry. But it's nothing. It's for no reason. She, on the other hand, she gets angry about things from the past. She comes up with these reasons for being angry that I don't understand at all. Her anger is intentional. That's not acceptable. She says, I get angry when it's appropriate. When I get angry, I have a reason. Something he said 10 years ago, yes. But he's angry for no reason. So whose anger is legitimate?
Neither.
So yeah, that is the difference between intentional anger or absent-minded anger, instinctive anger, and purposeful anger. Now, the purposeful anger could be wrong. In other words, the reason you're giving yourself for being angry is not a good reason. But your anger is real anger because it has a reason. The reasoning is faulty, not the anger. So if you change your thinking, the anger would go away. But just angry for no reason, that's just an instinct, not even an emotion. So those should never be tolerated.
Rabbi Friedman, can people be happy on demand?
To some degree, yes. I think we've talked about this before. A person says, I got so angry I lost control. Does anybody ever really lose control?
If they want to.
Unless you're insane, and that is the definition of insanity. Unless you're insane, you have not lost control. If you have lost control, you are insane. Right? You've lost your mind. Is that not a good definition of insanity?
Great definition.
Are you out of your mind? Then you're crazy. A person, I think we'll use this example. A person says to me, I got so angry, I lost control, and I hit my wife. I lost control. So to take it to its ridiculous extreme, you lost control? Why didn't you kill her? He says, oh, don't be crazy. So you didn't lose control. You gave yourself permission to hit her because you were not crazy enough to kill her or even to seriously injure her. So you were in control. So why did you hit her? Because there was room in your mind for that possibility. You gave yourself that much permission. At the moment, it seemed reasonable. So you didn't lose control. The question is, in your brain, what makes you think that hitting your wife is acceptable? You can't claim that you lost control.
So basically,
lost control, you usually don't regain it.
So basically, we can control ourselves enough to call out the needed emotions in our lives at a given moment or at any time?
Yes. Not easily, but it's doable.
Which brings me
if
to...
you take it seriously. If you take your happiness seriously, then you can. You move your mind from negative thinking to positive thinking, your heart will follow. Because essentially your heart doesn't know what to feel. It has an assortment of emotions, it doesn't know which one to use when. For that, it depends on the mind. The mind has to tell the heart which of its emotions it should tap into. The heart always follows the information of the mind.
But everyone wants to be happy, yet not everyone is happy.
Everybody wants to be happy. Not everybody is convinced that they have a right to be happy, that they have the ability to be happy, or that they have the merit that they deserve to be happy. Those are three conditions. Do you deserve happiness? Are you capable of happiness? And do you have a reason to be? People who have plenty of reason to be happy don't see the reason. People who are perfectly capable of being happy feel incapacitated. And people who deserve to be happy believe that they don't deserve it. So the happiness is not their problem. Their brain is the problem. They have blocked the feelings by wrong thinking.
Is there one universal thought that can turn it around?
Only one. God still wants you. Maybe you don't deserve, maybe you're not capable, maybe you can't think of a reason, but God does. He wants you in His world.
And that should be enough to bring a smile to everybody's face, I hope.
It should at least make it possible. Like somebody said, your birthday, that's the day God decided that the world was not complete without you. So every day that He gives you life, He's telling you that the world is not complete without you. And you think you don't deserve. But obviously He does. So whose opinion are you going to take seriously?
I don't know about everybody else, but that certainly gave me a very, very fuzzy feeling right now. Hopefully it did the same for those who are listening. Rabbi Friedman, amazing. Thank you so much. Always sad when our program comes to an end, because that means I have to wait another 7 days to get the light, the wisdom, and the amazing insights that you give our community. every week, and we are very, very grateful for it.
You are so generous. You are so generous with your compliments. Nice. Generosity is one of those feelings we didn't talk about.
Well, then,
how do you get to feel generous? That's a big one.
I think we'll take this topic and explore it next week. Generosity is, we got a topic for next week. Fantastic. Hopefully the world allows us to.
Hopefully the world will give us more reason to be generous.
I'm into that. Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman. And of course, lots of happiness to you, your family. Have a wonderful, wonderful remainder of my favorite holiday, the holiday of Sukkot. It truly is lots of happiness.
It reminds me of the one day of the year when young Jews in Soviet Union would go out into the streets and very bravely show their Jewishness. On Simchat Torah. They wouldn't come out for Yom Kippur, they wouldn't come out for Pesach, but Simchat Torah, despite all the danger, they were dancing in the streets of Moscow. There's something about Simchat Torah more powerful than Yom Kippur.
Wow. And I hope everybody takes advantage of it this Sunday and has a lot of happiness doing, feeling and doing, and may we just carry that feeling with us at all times. Thank you again very, very much, Rabbi Friedman.